Hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Hangout. I want to start by thanking our sponsors from Apartment Snapshot, Kairos Water, and GPS Roof Leak Repairs for making this broadcast possible. With this being said, I'm passing it on to my co-host, Mr. Moreno. Take it away, sir.
Amazing. There we go. Figure out that mute button there. Well, thank you so much. And we are extremely excited today. I'm actually out of Atlanta, Georgia, but normally, and all three of us get to live in Atlanta, Georgia. And our special guest today has a ton of experience in the multifamily space. I think she's got over 16 years now of experience across student housing, military, multifamily. And she is just a tactical boss across technology, business systems, marketing, you name it, and really focuses around data modeling, standardization, and innovation. I think one of the coolest things, though, about our guest today and about Erica is that she's the co-founder of the W Collective, which is a leadership networking forum really dedicated to empowering women in the student housing industry. So I'm excited to hear more stories about what she's working on. And without further ado, I want to thank you for coming to join us today, Erica White.
Hello. Thanks so much, Chris. What an introduction. That was incredible. Thank you so much to both you and Adrian for having me today. I love that we are all representing the great state of Georgia here. So very, very excited to be here and really looking forward to this time together.
Yeah, we're going to dive right in. And I know you have gone through some transitions in your career. Obviously, right now, you know, being at Article Student Living. I'd love for you, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your history of how you got into multifamily and specifically student, and maybe a little bit about your transition through your career.
Yeah, of course. So I started in this industry, oh my goodness, when I was 18 years old. So I've spent my entire adult career in student housing, with also in multifamily and that military experience that you mentioned. So I am originally from North Carolina. So I went to college at East Carolina University. So if I have any pirates here, I'm just going to yell purple and hope that you will later yell gold in this chat. You'll know exactly what I'm chatting about on that. But went to school at East Carolina University. I started to work where I lived, and my title at the time was community assistant, or what we would call a community assistant at the time. I'm not even sure that was the name, but I always joke and say that I was hired to do the mail, and I killed it, crushed it, was the best at doing that mail. So I then just fell in love with, helping residents. I really loved the leasing process and just really transitioned to every single on-site position. The only on-site position, and this is a little bit of a fun fact, is that I did not hold the assistant manager role, but every other role in between. So super, just gained so much experience in that time. I then moved on to a training role where I love to, again, help people, love to learn the why behind things. So having that operational background and really giving the insight to our teams and our partners on what to expect and how to have that change management was really exciting for me. And then I went to the consulting world, where I was able to integrate with multiple owner operators and partner with a lot of vendor supplier partners. And it was really cool and really awesome to see how each organization really approached their operations. And so that was really exciting for me. I was a VP of operations there, and I think being infinitely curious about everything and asking why really led me into that systems and that organizational structure of technology role. So coming into Article, I was overseeing our business systems and seeing all of our third-party software and really running the tactical software strategy, and, seeing a need for the tech intensity and the organizational structure of tech. I really leaned into it. And so that has what led me to Article. And it has been just such an incredible journey. And we have such an amazing team. And a lot of our leadership at Article grew up in the industry as well. So it's been a really awesome experience.
Erica, before I get to ask my first question, I do want to acknowledge those of you in the audience that are joining us live today. And want to give you kudos for joining, for hanging out with us. Please drop a line in the comments. Tell us where you're watching today from, and also drop some questions in the comment boxes for Erica. So we will be watching, monitoring the comment boxes, and also taking questions from you. So my first question, Erica, is, obviously amazing, outstanding career. From a leadership perspective, what are the best lessons that you have learned along the way that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, I think I've learned a lot as a leader. I think that just overall, my experience with the incredible people who have really poured into me and taught me leadership was really that the ivory model of leadership is really antiquated. And I think that really leaning in and getting in the weeds with your team is important. And that's just always been something that I've really tried to mimic my leadership style after. I get that a lot from Donna Davidson. She's someone I have to shout out. She's been a mentor in the space to me and really grew up alongside me in the space. And she's been someone I've really leaned on. And, one thing that she used to tell me is that you lead within, not from outside. And so that is always a takeaway that I try to embrace and try to share with my teams as well.
That's great. And I'm kind of curious, like if you could share a little bit more about, thinking about as you lead teams, like what are your primary objectives and how you're like thinking about implementing, cutting edge technology. A lot of people talking about technology, but the actual way you think about implementing it and steering it at your organization.
Yeah. So my approach is that, it is super important to stay ahead of the curve, but while I think that that's important, I think it's also about managing change effectively while also equally prioritizing the needs and experiences of our teams and residents. I think pushing tech intensity really does bring out significant shifts in workflows and processes. And we have to make sure that our teams keep up and that we're not pushing overwhelming, initiatives onto them too fast. So, our team is really responsible for leading that robust change management process and really guiding our organization through that transition effectively. And that really involves communication at all fronts and all departments. We're partnering with our training teams on programming. We're running in step with our operations team, and we're really getting that stakeholder engagement to ensure that we're getting that buy-in and that we're smoothly integrating it into our platforms and in our organization.
Erica, how would you define sustainable platform growth, and how does it align with your current role at Article?
Yeah, that is a really, really good question. So to me, I really think sustainable platform growth is the strategic expansion of an organization, but without placing undue burden on our culture and our people within. So it's not just about expanding for the sake of expansion, but really ensuring that we have intentional growth standards and we're building a better future for those that we serve. So I would say that this really aligns with my role just as I oversee systems and data analytics and our IT team. I really try to work alongside them to ensure that we're systematically and technologically set up for that flexibility, but also for our teams to contribute to our growth across our platforms. That was a good question.
So yeah, I love this, and I especially thinking about like innovation, beginning new initiatives, leadership. I think one of the things, you have co-founded the W Collective, and maybe you want to give a little background on the W Collective first for those who haven't heard of it before. But I'd love to hear maybe, a little bit about the founding of it, how you came up with it, and what inspired you to create it.
Yeah. So the W Collective, for those that don't know, it serves for a networking forum across student housing. And, the goal that we were really wanting to accomplish with the W Collective is to, we noticed that there's just incredible talent within our industry. And we really wanted to harness that, leverage it, and really just celebrate it. And, in 2021, it was early. I was talking to an industry friend and just incredible luminary in our space. Her name is Whitney Kidd. For those of you who know her, she's incredible. Funny story about Whitney and I, we actually went to the same college together. We worked at the same apartment community together. We actually had the same major and had no idea until our adult life, and we took off into this career. So very, very funny story. We always say that our path was meant and by fate. So we always love to share that little tidbit. But I gave Whitney a call in early 2021 and just said, we really need to come together as women and help support others in our industry. And so our overall goal was to really make the experience of coming up in this industry for those that were, emerging leaders. We wanted to make sure it was equitable, that it was streamlined and empowering for women. So we really wanted to identify and promote and educate the next generation of women leaders, while also discussing impactful topics with our allies. I think, we've seen a lot of these organizations or these groups that have come about, but I think one of the things that we really learned and took away is that, we need our allies and we need them to be in step with us. And we've just seen incredible trajectory with that thus far. So it's been an incredible experience, and excited to share more about, some of the impact that we've seen in the industry with it.
Erica, you mentioned the end user and the buy-in that you're trying to get from the end users within your organization when it comes to implementing new technology. A few months ago, I was at a PropTech conference, and leaders in the industry were mentioning 50 or 60 plus pieces of software, different programs that a entry level like leasing agent has to be proficient in, and this is way too much, right? It's not actually helping our employees, our associates. It's actually, we end up punishing them with technology. And it's an unrealistic expectation, really, to expect someone entry level that, it's at an entry level pay too, right? So you can't really pay them too much to absorb that much technology and, within a 30, 60, 90-day period. How do you see us as an industry mitigating that, situation? Because it seems like it's pretty widespread. And how do you approach it from a different angle at Article?
So I want to make sure I understand the question. So how do we make sure that we are striking that balance between not overwhelming our teams, but, being on the forefront of technology? Is that the question? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's the first part. The other nuance of the question is how do we vet technology, right? So we don't get to a point where there's a unrealistic requirement from our entry-level employees to absorb that much technology, to be proficient in so many pieces of software.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. One way that we try to approach that at Article is we really lean into that innovation cycle. We're identifying a problem, we're researching, we're doing beta testing, we're rolling those out, we're, identifying what success metrics that we're seeing. And then if that is something that, we're seeing that we are solving for the resident experience, we're automating tasks and taking and creating time savings for our on-site staff and team members. That is something that we would want to move forward with, but we almost collectively internally have this innovation committee where, we're checking in with our marketing teams, we're pulse checking with operations, we're making sure with finance and accounting that this is going to work for all of our operations. And so for us at Article, we're really looking at that innovation cycle and really leaning into that. And then the first part of the question, again, just what was the first part? Sorry, remind me. I want to make sure.
How do we manage, this abundance of software that is required for our entry-level employees to learn? How do we mitigate that situation? Because I'm assuming, right, sometimes you start with an organization, there's an existing situation out there, right? And it's not something that you created, but you have to manage, you have to work through and sort through. How do we manage as an industry?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot, and I know that we will probably chat about it on this call. I know there's a lot of talk about centralization in our space and how we approach that. And I think that, overall, we do see that happening in our space. Centralization is happening all around. So what I think centralization has happened is it can also be seen as a little overhyped just on the buzzword that you hear with centralization, but in reality, the actual impact is happening. We do see that across sites. So it is a real concept, and it really depends on how it's implemented and the impact on operations, I think. I think that it depends on various factors, structure of the portfolio, size, location of the portfolio. I think it's about specific resident needs and staff needs and how, what we're trying to solve for at each specific market. I don't necessarily think every technology works in every market or that it's a blanket statement, in my opinion. And so I think that it should be approached thoughtfully with a focus on optimizing processes and enhancing service delivery. I think those should be the main focus and really maximizing that value for all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, I'm nodding my head here. Obviously, a few questions on what you just said, but I think you're so right. Like, because there's so many differentiators between the types of housing and the types of technology, and you're right, one size does not fit all. On that note, would you say, you've probably seen a lot of technology over your career. Was there something that, maybe some technologies that really stood out that transformed core processes for you that you remember you're like, oh man, we really stepped in and leaned into this hard? Are there any things you could share from your experiences, maybe in operations or in student housing over your tenure?
Yeah, I think I do want to speak to a little bit of how things have changed. This will probably date me a little bit, honestly, but it is insane to me to look back at my career and say, wow, like we really relied heavy on paper leases, which, do not get me wrong, love a paper lease. I love a lease in general. There's never going to be a time that I'm not celebrating or high-fiving a lease. But the digitalization of the leasing process has changed so much. And sometimes I think, gosh, I wish that I had those at my fingertips when I was coming up in the space. I think we've really put a focus on engagement opportunities and networks. I think that we are really able to speak directly to the renter that we are trying to serve now. And there's a lot of that no-touch technology in my industry. And what we're seeing right now is that, there's a lot of self-service happening. So I've seen a lot of cool technology. I think the most impactful ones that have obviously been the digitalization of the leasing process. Also making sure there's access control. I think before in the space, that resident experience was a little bit disjointed, right? Like when people would come to move in, there was a brass key that we gave, there was a gate fob that we gave, and now it's really about a seamless access control experience. So I think really that focus on access control. I think biometric access control has been really cool and has been up and coming with fingerprint technology, and facial recognition is huge. A lot of the AI capabilities that we see and big data, I think has been really massive. I think for me specifically, the one that we've really decided to lean into is big data and observability. I think it's not just about having the data at your fingertips. Yes, that's important, but what do we do with that data? How is it actionable, and how are we giving that to our site teams to make faster decisions and quicker decisions and just overall better decisions with the trends and things that we're seeing?
Erica, you mentioned artificial intelligence. I'd like for you to stay a little bit on the topic and elaborate a little bit more. What are your thoughts in general about artificial intelligence in general? How does it influence the society? And then how does it influence our industry, and in particular, the part of the industry that you're representing, student housing?
Absolutely. I think that AI just holds tremendous potential as a tool to create efficiencies in real estate, no matter, what sector you're in. I think by leveraging it, we can streamline various processes, automate process. And, we've always been able to, automate processes, but really that sophistication, I think, comes into play here. It really overall enhancing the experience. Where I think that we need to be cautious is that it needs to be implemented thoughtfully, ensuring ethical use, but also ongoing monitoring to mitigate risk, I think is important. It's not a set it and forget it technology, in my opinion, but really some cool things in automation, whether it's lead nurture, renewal nurture touch points, and also like, predictive maintenance is huge. And then even that technology for and streamlining that bad debt recovery language and really automating that process as well. I think there's a lot of savings in it, but I do think it's about the way it's implemented is extremely important. It's not about just putting your foot on the gas and saying go, but really measuring that as well.
I'm curious too. Obviously, seeing you speak on a lot of panels, you're very involved. You and your team. In student housing business, I think they award you all some innovator awards, right? I'm kind of curious, like, what are the different reasons for that? If you can share maybe some of the stories of what actions you took and why you and your teams are asked to speak so much. I understand it, but I'd love for our audience to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they keep inviting us back to speak, is that we have something to share. We're giving that value. I think that there's giving the value without giving secret sauce. At the end of the day, we're all working to strive to hit the same goals. And so very appreciative of all of the opportunities that we've been given. I think specific to those innovator awards, we're very, very proud. We won consistently on Best In-House Innovation. 3 years in a row, we've actually won that award. So it's really a testament of all of the hard work, both past and present employees that have had their fingerprints on it. Our most recent win for this award was last year, and we won it based off of our centralized reporting platform. Again, it speaks to that observability tools that we were talking about and really integrating with all of our core business systems in one area. So we could have executive reporting, we had site level reporting, and management reporting to where we could make those decisions faster. So really, really cool. We've won before with creating our own market survey, our own renewal tracker platform. So lots to say there. We've won best, I want to say it was best Wi-Fi experience there. We won as well. So we've had a lot of great opportunities. It was really, really exciting. I really attribute that success again is to listening to our people and our partners and building what they need and what they want. And so that has been really fun. I think that has been one of the highlights of what I do on my day-to-day is getting to be creative and problem solving and really putting those processes together to increase that observability. That was really exciting.
Now is the time to take a question from the audience, and I'm going to take a question from Christian Benz. How has your team tackled retrofits on properties that don't necessarily have the infrastructure in place?
Yeah, so our approach is like we've really worked with a lot of strategic partners in that sense. So, for example, we've had partners that have had a lot of backwards compatibility, I think, is important. And so when we are innovating, we expect our teams to innovate and our strategic partners to innovate with us. And so that's one thing that we've been seeing is that we want to work with people who have that backwards compatibility. And so I think that that's something that we're going to continue to face is making sure we're prioritizing and looking at advance with those retrofits and looking at those strategic partners that do have that backwards compatibility. We've seen it actually recently on some of our access control and really being able to work and partner with some of those items. So thinking that way, trying to look to the future and having that agility in place in the beginning, I think is really important.
Awesome. On that point of, staying informed around emerging trends in tech, obviously the big student housing interface every year in Austin, huge event. How do you stay up to date on all the trends, all the technologies? As Adrian said, there's not really hundreds, there's thousands of companies trying to sell technologies into this industry, right? I want to get your thoughts on how do you keep up and keep your teams informed on what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of different ways. And some of these I think most people are doing as well. I think just really looking to those industry conferences and making sure that we're present at those and being, informed with the trends that are happening in today, industry literature that's coming out, making sure that we're apprised of what's happening on a national level as well as locally and state as well, I think is really important. And one thing that's really been beneficial just to me personally is that I've just been able to network and within our sector and space is we've created what we call this almost this innovation committee, this systems committee. We do partner and look to our some of our competitors and friends in the industry. We do talk. I know that is it's a small space. We all say that, but we all do definitely talk. And that's something that we do is we kind of pace set together and we say, hey, what's worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? You know, what results have you seen on this in this market? Because you're also there. So those are a lot of things that we do. I know that that's something Whitney and I talk about a lot. Sandra Barfield, her and I connect a ton. So it's really about pace setting and talking through those initiatives and also working with our strategic partners on that as well. So lots of reading goes into play for sure, and talking and networking within our organizations as well.
Erica, game-changing technology. I'd like to ask you if you could share with us some examples of how technology, specific pieces of tech, have transformed core business processes and operations within the student housing during your tenure in industry.
Yeah, just as mentioned before, I think a lot of the access control and having that seamless experience, like we mentioned before, has been huge across the board. The digitalization of leasing has been massive. I think also virtual tours, that was unheard of when I was coming up in the space. So just, you know, really allowing that seamless experience for our prospects to be able to experience our communities on their own time and in their own way. I think that it's been really huge. I think that we've only increased with cloud security. I think that that's been massive and really been able to increase cybersecurity awareness. That is something I've really dug into in the past few months, and it has been so interesting and fun to work through that. We actually just hired a director of technology on our team, and he comes with just such a wealth of knowledge in the industry with 24 years of experience plus, and just we've gotten to partner a lot on new initiatives that we're really excited about. But overall, tons of things happening in the space since I kind of came up in there. And I think that game-changing technology really starts with, you know, things like self-guided tours and things like that.
That's so cool to hear. And I love, yeah, I love that you guys, you know, you step out, because it was interesting. There were some shares recently about some people going back to basics. And my theory is that, you know, people who use technology are going to outperform those who do not. And it sounds like you're definitely above and beyond. You know, as we talk about like the different, you know, ways of implementing technology, like you said, it can be very different. I'm curious to get your thoughts, how different, or maybe like some surprises for you of how different some people might think student housing, military, multifamily, Class A to Class C are all the same from the outside. But maybe what are some things that maybe surprised you about how different they were when you traversed, you know, them in your career?
Yes. So I can tell you that, you know, student housing has gotten its fair share of just challenges, but excitement along the way. I always joke and say, and for those that are here on student housing, you will agree to this. You never have the same day twice. There is just something happening all the time. And maybe that's why I love it. I think I love the excitement of it, maybe a little bit of chaos. I've always loved that. But it was definitely very different when it came to stepping into military housing. For once, the difference that I saw huge was just in general of roommate matching. You know, student housing roommate matching is a little different. We were going by the bed. You have your, you know, profile. We're doing all of the things. You can choose your own roommates. There's a lot of technology around that as well. But with military housing, you know, there's a lot of acronyms you have to know. There's a lot of matching based off rank that I found myself just actively researching. So that was incredible and a really huge experience to learn for me. My mother-in-law is actually in the military. She is stationed by Fort Knox area. So it was really interesting to hear her perspective of that as well. So that was kind of cool to get to navigate. And so it's been fun just being able to experience each different sector and how they differ all around. And coming from on-site myself, I've always been able to kind of put myself in the shoes of the renter and even the resident, or I'm sorry, the staff on site, to see like, what are we looking to solve for and not be so out of touch. So it's nice to be able to tap into that as well.
Adrian, if it's okay, I have a quick follow-on question to what she just said. Absolutely. Because Erica, it was, and you witnessed it firsthand. It was pretty amazing during COVID how people said, wow, all these college kids are going to go home. colleges are shutting down, student housing is over. I couldn't believe people were saying that, but those were the headlines, right? Like, what are people going to do? Are they going to have to convert all this student housing to traditional housing? And it seems like that's anything but. I mean, as your experience is, has it gotten stronger? Has it gone the other way? What have you seen over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's been, I mean, honestly, really strong. I think that, you know, there's always a need. And I think it's so crazy to think that COVID was 4 years ago and that we are outside of that realm. But I think what really was awesome about the student housing space is that our agility and adaptability. It is almost like while there were challenges, there was a lot of collaboration during that time in the sector. And what was really cool about it is that people were saying what worked. And it was almost like, oh, we just flipped a switch. We're just changing this route. We're all working from home. We're all having this. And it just was business as usual. And I thought that that was so interesting. I know that there was a lot of requests for me at that time specific to COVID. I was consulting. I was traveling, obviously, without when there were no mandates and stay at homes in place at that time. But, I was still traveling, helping out on site. There was still things that were still happening and operations moving and going forward, especially preparing for turn every year. There was still so much and things to do. So to me, it was the opposite of that quiet time and shutdown time. I mean, it has picked up and was strong ever since, but definitely very altering to our industry, I would say.
Erica, big picture, what are the main challenges that you see now in 2024 for our industry that we have to overcome?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I think in my opinion, there are going to be some challenges of just ensuring that we're embracing technology and those that um that we're partnering with continue to see that value. I think that what's really been cool in our space, and that hasn't always been the case, is that innovation has really become this pillar of organizations where before it may have seemed kind of ancillary, but now it's a standard, I would say. So I've really loved seeing that. I think that we will continue to have to manage that change management in the process. We've seen a lot of that, like I said, foot on the gas, forward movement. And I think that we're going to have to continue to toe that balance of what is innovative, what is meaningful, what is actually driving change, and where are we seeing those results versus, like you mentioned earlier, Adrian, throwing all this technology at our teams. Are they able to actually utilize it? Are we actually getting the value for what we're investing in? I think that's going to continue to be on the forefront of everyone, is seeing that ROI on our investments with technology for sure. And ensuring that it's getting that buy-in across the board.
Yeah. How do you think about that culture of innovation? How do you think about, maybe you can take it at a higher level of culture in general, of ensuring that it sounds like you're giving your teams a lot of freedom. You're supporting them in their decision making, or letting them fail or make mistakes, not necessarily fail. Can you share a little bit about the culture and about the innovation that you all have? And of course, any secret sauces you don't have to share.
Yeah. So I think high level, I mean, I do think it's important I mean, again, this is just leadership, probably 101, and nothing earth shattering here, but I do think it's important to give our team members the autonomy to fail fast. We're hiring smart, capable, incredible people I learn from every day as well. So I think it's important to give them the autonomy to fail fast, but also give them that guidance and that support to pivot when things do fail, and have that learning mobility as well. So I think for me, it's giving that open communication, that accessibility. And I ask a lot of why. If you talk to my team, they're probably like, Erica's going to ask why. That matters all the time. So I think that's incredibly important for sure.
Erica, another big picture question. What are the opportunities for us as an industry? What do you see opportunities in a current environment for us to do, to serve our stakeholders better, like our employees, our investors, our residents?
Yeah, I think it's about creating that seamless, like I said, that seamless journey from a resident experience, really making sure that that's not disjointed. I think that, in general, we want to make sure that we are approaching these items holistically as well, I think is extremely important. Um, I'm looking at some of the chat here. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I see we've got South Carolina people in here. Hi, John. Hi, Christian. This is awesome. So yeah, I think to answer that question and to go back, yes, looking at it holistically and say that last part one more time. I want to make sure I'm answering it. Sorry, I got distracted on that.
Yeah,
I love this chat.
me too. I'm all eyes right there. And by the way, y'all, drop your questions in a box. We're keeping an eye on a box, as you can tell on the comments on what you're commenting, right? So it was about opportunities, like
Yeah.
What are the opportunities that you see in the current market for us operators, for investors, and also for our residents?
Sorry. Yeah. So opportunities for sure is going to continue to have that pulse on AI. I don't think it's going away. It's definitely going to continue to be utilized. I think just again, making sure that we have that, again, I'm going to keep saying it, you're going to be so over it, but that observability factor, our, partners and stakeholders want to know quick, fast information. How can we deliver that to them with that narrative, and how can they make those informed decisions? So making sure that we're putting a huge focus on that. And I think the opportunity is going to continue to be automating processes for our site teams. Time savings is important. If we're taking care of our people are going to take care of our residents for the business. So I think that that's always going to be the opportunity and what we should be focusing on.
Great. I'm kind of curious, as you shared earlier, like staying up to date on things, and you obviously have a great speaking style, leadership style, writing style as well when you share on LinkedIn. Who are some people you learn from? I think about like Simon Sinek is someone I love to learn from, and some of the different, writers. Who are some, are you more of a physical, like hard, paperback book, or are you more of do you like listening to podcasts, and who's someone you really are engaged with?
Yeah, so I am a Kindle girly. I will say that through and through. I do love podcasts. A lot of people that I'm tuned into right now specifically is Mel Robbins. Her theory on the let them theory just changed my life. Like, I am someone who loves control and I love, processes and procedures, but her thought on let them, it just is so freeing. And so if anyone has not listened to that, I encourage you to go check that out. I have really enjoyed, obviously, Brene Brown. I love her focus on empathy. I think that that's important, and leading with empathy is a lot of how I try to mimic my leadership style 100%. And then also Alex Sheen. I had heard Alex Sheen speak in person at once, and he is the founder of that Because I Said So movement. And that is something that really spoke to me and was something that, words matter. And it's something that I take with me all the time. And it doesn't matter what my focus is, whether it's professional, personal, because I said something. And if I bring that into the existence and I say I'm going to do it, it's important to me to mimic that and make sure that I follow through. So those are 3 people off top of my head professionally that I, love to stay on top of what they've got going on, listening to their podcast and anything that they're publishing. I think just mentorship in the space. And I've just been so incredibly lucky to have people pour into me and really challenge me and honestly let me honor my roots while growing and giving me that space to, like I said, fail fast and learn. And I've really enjoyed still chatting with all my mentors across the space. I have so many that it changes. I've got, Monica Morgan and Donna Davidson, Wes Dees, who's so prominent. I've got Chris Richards at Core Spaces and a lot of the women on the W Collective board and executive board there as well. I mean, I am fangirling so hard over so many of them, Julie Bonin and Donna Price. I mean, just legends in our space, and just really been great to connect with them and kind of work alongside them. And they come from a different generation. They come from a different, time, and they may have experienced different problems than we're currently facing. And then those emerging leaders will face, coming up as well. So it's just been really great to get their perspective, and they've just been so incredible and very gracious to give their time to us. So we're very, very thankful for that.
Next, I'm going to take another question from the audience, and the question comes from Erica FedExco. How long do you test new technology in a controlled environment before you make the decision to roll it to your entire team or not?
Yeah, it really, I wouldn't say I put a time on it. It really depends on that technology. Erica, I love your name. But I do think that is a great question. And, for us, an example, it depends on what we're looking for. When we're going into testing these items, I think what we want to do and create is always go ahead and create those success metrics on the front end with all of our key stakeholders. So we're looking at, okay, this team, this team, this team, if this works, what is needed for this to be considered a success from your department, and getting that key stakeholder buy-in. So that way, when we are testing and we are checking and tying that these things are sustainable over time as well, we can say that this is a value add. This is exactly something that we want to move forward and push forward with. And that is, that's really how we test it along that side. I wouldn't say it's a necessarily time limit. I will say, I think we start out, we don't do less than a 90-day trial period for certain things because we want to make sure that we get the actual data to be able to make those decisions. So nothing less than 90 days, depending on the technology. It could be a little bit longer than that as well. Great question.
Awesome. I'd love to ask you, and as we think about people, 15 years ago in your career, people who are aspiring or young professionals aspiring for leadership, and they're looking at technology, they're looking at real estate. What advice might you give to them, as they're thinking about their next journey and their path forward, whether they're in operations or management?
Yeah, I think, high level, I think it's about aggressively pursuing your passion. If you would have asked me years ago if I thought that I would be in a technology role, absolutely not. I never thought that, but I had a passion for, optimization. I had a passion for systems and performance, and I really love that. And so I aggressively chase that. I think it's about finding what you love so you can pour into that. You get mentors along the way. And I've said it a couple times here today as well, but being that, infinitely curious, do the exploration, know what you're looking for. I would definitely say that. I would make sure that you are, again, just chasing exactly what you want to do and explore different paths. I know that, we encourage at Article, if I tell site teams all the time, like, if there is something that you're interested in learning, reach out. Let's talk through it. I think there's a great and huge, opportunity with sponsors is what I call them, having someone in your organization that kind of pulls you up the ranks or gives you kind of that inside scoop and knowledge and kind of trains you up along the way. I think that's important. And I would tell them, don't be hesitant to ask the question, because there's going to be people who want to give you those answers. So ask all the questions. There's nothing that is too small to ask. So I would definitely encourage that.
Next, Erica, I want to look forward, open the window, and look towards the future. What are some trends that you see happening in the second part of 2024 and 2025?
Trends. I think that we're going to continue to see, and I hope it's not just a trend. I hope this is something that's going to continue to move forward. But, I'm hoping that we're going to continue to see a lot of integration from our strategic partners with all of our core business processes. I think that that's going to continue to happen. We're seeing a lot of integration and a lot of requests for, API access and having these feeds and making sure it's integrating with our core business processes. So for me, I think that's going to continue to push and be a major focus. Again, I think I said it a couple times as well. I think AI, again, is going to continue to be big. I know it's being leveraged really heavily on the, bad debt recovery side and having that language and pushing that and creating that optimization there for sure. And I think that the centralization of systems is going to continue to be a focus. How are we maximizing and making the most out of our partnerships? And how are we utilizing that across all platforms of the business? I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing about AI every single day.
Oh yeah.
It almost feels like there isn't an area of our businesses now that AI isn't jumping into. Have you implemented AI across your teams and across your company, or is that still something you're early on?
Yeah, we definitely do utilize AI. There's some, discussion about, utilizing that with our message centers and some of our communication tools. We definitely have with bad debt recovery. We definitely use AI from a lead nurture perspective. But what's important with it is that we're also implementing the human touch alongside it. Again, I think it's very important not to just expect systems to manage that experience for us, but definitely having that human touch and that guidance from our site teams. We've seen it across the board. Our residents want to lease from our people. They want to live where our people are creating those experiences as well. And so I think that's been equally important and something that we've tried to, cross collaborate with as well.
Next, I have another question from the audience, and this one comes from Ashley Lott. Knowing what you know now and with where you are today, what are a few areas where you wish you had jumped into and learned more on sooner?
That is a great question from someone who just will Google search everything over here. I love to just learn. So sooner, let's see. What do I wish that I would have learned sooner? Hmm. So this isn't necessarily an ethical lesson that I wish I would have learned sooner, but something that I had a mentor tell me before. And, growing up in this space, again, I started in this industry when I was, in college. I was right at 18. And something I wish I would have learned sooner is that it's okay to be authentically you, and what you bring to the table matters. And the way you bring it to the table matters. And I know that may seem pretty broad. Can y'all see me okay? Am I having issues? Y'all good?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
You're back though, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're back.
Yep.
Keeping me on my toes here, but just saying, broadly, one thing that I wish that I would have learned sooner, an area I wish I would have, is just making sure it's okay and knowing it's okay to be authentically you. I think that that's been incredibly important for me to learn personally, as a leader, not specific to technology or any process, but growing up, I used to say, I would feel like I needed to paint myself the color of the walls to fit in. I was a people pleaser, and I didn't follow my gut always. When I knew what my gut was saying was correct, I had the knowledge. I was, the one for the job, or I was equipped for the job. And I think imposter syndrome, specifically to women as well, is something that happens across the board. So I want to say that it's okay to have those feelings, that we always have those feelings. And I wish I would have known that sooner, because I put myself through a lot not knowing that sooner, because it's not about being the wall color. It's about being the room. And that is something that I think I wish I would have learned a lot sooner. But that's a great question. Made me think on that one.
So love to hear, you shared earlier about some mentors and some other co-collaborators that you go to. Is there someone, you also talked about, I think your mother who's in the military, but is there someone maybe that was the most influential person in your life, maybe growing up, that made a huge impact on you?
100%. My sister, I have to say, growing up, my sister is 4 years older than me, and she is one who has solely, I say, pretty much raised me growing up. We didn't have the easiest childhood growing up, but we learned a lot along the way. And she is someone who taught me how to be a mother, how to stay firm and stay strong in the face of challenges, and really be tenacious. And she is someone who I continue to look to for leadership. She is just an incredible person. If you were to see us out, we look very similar, but we are night and day different. She is just incredible. She is a stay-at-home mom in North Carolina. She lives on a farm. I live here in the city in Atlanta. We just have two totally different lifestyles, but in the best way. She is just such a fierce woman, and someone I hope that I could even become half of who she is. So definitely most influential person there for sure.
Erica, the journey at the top could feel lonely at times. I don't know if you have that feeling every now and then, or maybe often. How do you overcome this loneliness?
So, wow, that's a really good question. For starters, I I don't feel like I'm at the top, honestly, and I don't feel lonely either, and I'll explain why. I feel like that I still have so much to accomplish, and I believe that there's always a new height to climb. And over my career, I've really always tried to embrace the responsibility of sending the ladder back down. That's something that I always talk about and bring other people alongside me. So if I'm lonely and I'm sitting here at the top, lonely, then I have not done my job effectively. And I truly, truly believe that. Knowing that my success is not solely measured by personal achievements, but really by the impact that I have on others drives me forward. And I think it's about fostering that culture of collaboration and support where we can all rise together. And it's really a lot of the impact that I want to see with the W Collective and, a lot of the forward movement I want to see in representation and DEI and belonging in our space. Those are all things that we're looking to accomplish overall as an industry collectively. And so that's really something that, I don't think that I'm at the top, and and definitely want to make sure that I'm bringing others along. I think having to overcome or having to think or kind of what has kept me going, I would say, is like I mentioned, I am incredibly tenacious. And if you know me, you could probably argue maybe I'm a little stubborn in that sense. But I think the ability to persevere in the face of challenge and setbacks really has allowed me to navigate ups and downs. One thing I've shared before is the women's basketball coach at Duke she had this huge speech, and a lot of people have shared this on LinkedIn, and it is one that resonates with me and something I strive to be. It's being someone who handles hard well. How are you someone who handles challenges and navigating that, when things shift and things like that? So really having that and embracing that obstacle and being someone who handles hard well is really important to me and something that I try to utilize to keep me moving forward. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was great. I love that. Someone else who I listen to, Sahil Bloom, he talks about you get to pick your hard.
Yes.
Do you want this hard or do you want this hard? So you get to pick. I love that every day. I think about that a lot. So great way to break that down with that example. I'm kind of curious to know about, as you said, you don't feel you're at the top. That's great. You're still a lot to accomplish, a lot of things to do. When you think about legacy, and I'm trying to learn about legacy right now, I think Adrian as well, we've had some conversations about this, of how you pass that baton. You're obviously doing it with the W Collective and in your work, but what impact do you hope to have on the industry as a whole and on others? And how do you want to be remembered in 40 years, 50 years from now?
Wow. I hope I do this question justice. I want to be someone who's looked at that I wasn't afraid to embrace change. I wasn't afraid to stand and challenge the status quo. And I know we talk a lot about the work that we're doing, but, an impact and things that I hope I'm remembered for is that I was bold enough to stand up and say, hey, at this interface conference, a lot of us are, on this panel and we're talking, and I want to be remembered for being brave enough to say, hey, we are not forced to have this mindset. Let's look at what we're doing for parental leave. How can we keep women in the workforce? And how can we do that by supporting them? How can we ensure our advocates and our allies are, in the forefront of all that we're doing from a DEI, initiative? How are we making sure that historically underrepresented individuals aren't bearing the weight of, being the voice behind change? So I want to be someone who's remembered for being bold in that way. And that's a legacy I want to lead. I want to be remembered for someone who worked their ass off and worked for the teams that I work for, and that I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty and getting the weeds with my teams and teach them, that we can make sustainable change by listening to our residents, for our partners. And this is how we do that. So I hope that I make an impact on someone in that way. And that's how I'm remembered.
Erica, as we're approaching the end of our conversation, the top of the hour, I want to give you the opportunity to share some things that you didn't have the chance to share during the conversation, or maybe answer a question you wish we would have asked and we didn't?
Yeah, I think one of the questions that we kind of talked about that I'm just now that we're talking about that, you had mentioned there was a question on, what challenges we faced with diversity in student housing. I think that was a question I would definitely want to touch a little bit more on that one.
Please do.
Yeah. So, I know that there have been challenges overall as an industry, and I think it really permeates across every vertical of real estate. I don't necessarily see this as just being a student housing issue, but I do think, like I said, there is a huge focus for underrepresented individuals to bear that change and that be the voice of change, when in reality, that's collectively all of our responsibility. So just, wanting to bring that, conversation to light and ensure that we're putting our allies and our advocates at the forefront of our endeavors as an industry to make that sustainable change, because it's important across the board. Where are our decision makers at, and ensuring that we're creating belonging in our space. So that's something that's been really talked about and really important to us and exciting.
Erica, amazing conversation. I love the deep of your thoughts, and I'm grateful that you joined us for an hour. You took an hour out of your busy day. I want to pass it on to Chris, and want to ask you, Chris, any final thoughts?
I mean, this is a blast. It's always great. I love your initiatives. I love your fire and your passion, and I think you set a great example. So I hope my kids get to work for you someday as they grow up. Number two, I think we'll have to watch for you're going to be in person. If anyone who's going to be at the Interface Student Housing in Austin, make sure to go to your panel. Make sure to I'll make sure there's a couple people I know are going to be down there. And then number three, I'll have to watch for any webinars that you're doing online. So for those who can't travel but can make it out, are you going to be going to Apartmentalize this year?
I'm hoping to be there. I'll be
right.
It's right during my birthday week. So June 19th is my birthday. So it's right in the middle of that. So very excited. Definitely doing a lot with NAA on the Cultivate side of things. If you haven't heard about that and you have questions, definitely reach out. They've been really incredible with a lot of their content that they have been creating, and we're really excited to share. So yeah, if you have questions about that, for sure. And yeah, if you are at Interface and you want to connect, make sure you let me know. We do have a few panels. We have a roundtable that we're discussing just cultivating success with the W Collective. And then we're actually having a presentation where we are having a lot of women in the capital market space and letting them share their journeys and how they've come up in the space as well. So very, very excited to hear from them. Very grateful for their time as well. So, and I appreciate you all even thinking of me to be here today. It is just incredible what you all are doing. I follow you both very, very closely, and I'm just so honored to be here and just very much appreciate your time as well.
Thank you again, Erica. And I do want to give a huge shout out to all of you in the audience. You've been more active in commenting and asking questions than I can even remember for how long. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, so we couldn't take more questions. So we saw your questions. Hopefully, Erica, if you have a couple of minutes, like after we finish the live, maybe you could type up a couple of answers to we have like 4 or 5 questions that we couldn't get to, right? So we couldn't get to ask you. So again, thank you all very much for making this an amazing platform here, for being with us every single Thursday. I also want to thank our sponsors for making this possible. They are Apartment Snapshot, Kairos Water, and GPS Roof Leak Repairs. I'm Adrian Danila, one of the hosts, right here with Chris Moreno and Erica White. Thank you again for being with us today. We hope to see you back here next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Have an amazing afternoon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.